For countless individuals, the path to joining the Mafia has been a mysterious journey filled with intrigue and danger. In this exploration, we shine a light on the captivating stories of famous figures who found their way into this secretive world of organized crime. Whether they are long gone or still casting long shadows, their tales shed light on the enigmatic allure of the Mafia and the compelling motivations that drove them to become a part of this criminal underworld. Al Capone. The story of Al Capone, the most infamous gangster in American history, is a tale of sensationalism and shocking events that have captivated the public's imagination for decades. His rise to power during Prohibition is a testament to his cunning and ruthlessness. The gangster's Chicago operation in bootlegging, prostitution, and gambling dominated the organized crime scene, generating millions in revenue annually. Capone's notoriety reached its peak with acts of violence, including the infamous St. Valentine's Day Massacre in 1929. Born in 1899 in Brooklyn, New York, to poor immigrant parents, Capone's upbringing seemed ordinary, but little did anyone know that he would go on to become the most infamous gangster in American history. Alphonse Capone grew up in a bustling immigrant neighborhood where life was tough and opportunities were scarce. His father, Gabriel Capone, worked as a barber, while his mother, Teresa Raiola, was a seamstress. The Capone family lived in a modest tenement, struggling to make ends meet like many other immigrant families of the time. As a young boy, Capone showed promise as a student, but his path took a different turn when he started falling behind in school. Eventually, he dropped out altogether, finding himself drawn to the streets of Brooklyn. It was there that Capone encountered the allure of the criminal underworld, becoming involved with street gangs and engaging in petty crimes. It was during this time that Capone's life took a fateful turn. He crossed paths with two individuals who would shape his future wife Mary Coughlin and his mob mentor, Johnny Torrio. Meanwhile, Torrio, a prominent figure in the world of organized crime, recognized Capone's potential and employed him for small errands. Capone initially stuck to legitimate employment, working as a bartender and bouncer at the Harvard Inn in Coney Island. However, it was during his time at the inn that Capone earned his infamous nickname, Scarface. In a heated altercation, he was slashed across the face, leaving a permanent scar that would become a symbol of his ruthless persona. Capone's life took another turn when he married Mary Coughlin and moved to Baltimore to work as a bookkeeper. However, fate had other plans for him. When his father passed away, Capone received an invitation that would change the course of his life forever. Johnny Torrio, now operating a booming business in gambling and prostitution, invited Capone to join him in Chicago. Capone seized the opportunity and embarked on a journey to the Windy City. Chicago, a city teeming with opportunity and corruption, would become the backdrop for Capone's rise to power. He joined Torrio's operation, which thrived in the underground world of gambling and prostitution, but it was the enactment of Prohibition that would propel Capone and his associates into the lucrative business of bootlegging. The Prohibition era was a period in the United States from 1920 to 1933, during which a nationwide constitutional law prohibiting the production, importation, transportation, and sale of alcoholic beverages was enacted. The aim was to heal what lawmakers saw as an ill society plagued by alcohol-related problems such as alcoholism, family violence, and saloon-based political corruption. Capone quickly rose through the ranks, impressing Torrio with his ambition and ruthlessness. He became Torrio's trusted partner, and together they built a criminal empire that would dominate the organized crime scene in Chicago. Capone's reputation as a drinker and rabble-rouser grew, as did his influence and wealth. Capone's family, including his wife and their son, moved to Chicago, where they settled on the South Side. The Capone household exuded an air of luxury, reflecting the immense wealth generated by their illicit activities. However, the increasing violence associated with Capone's name began to tarnish his public image. In 1923, Capone and his associates made a strategic move, relocating their base to suburban Cicero. This move was an attempt to avoid the reformist mayor of Chicago and protect their operations. But a 1924 mayoral election in Cicero threatened their operations. To ensure they could continue doing business, Torrio and Capone initiated an intimidation effort on the day of the election, March 31, 1924, to guarantee their candidate would get elected. Some voters were even shot and killed. Chicago sent in police to respond, and they brutally gunned down Capone's brother Frank in the street. This incident marked a turning point in Capone's life as he realized the extent of the dangers he faced. After surviving an attempt on his own life, Torrio decided to leave the criminal business, leaving Capone to take over the entire operation. Capone, now at the helm of a vast criminal empire, lived a life of luxury and excess. His operations generated millions in revenue annually, allowing him to indulge in lavish spending and gain public sympathy with his charismatic personality. However, as Capone's name became increasingly associated with brutal violence, his popularity began to decline. In 1926, when two of Capone's sworn enemies were spotted in Cicero, Capone ordered his men to gun them down. Unbeknownst to Capone, William McSwiggan, known as the hanging prosecutor, who had tried to prosecute him for a previous murder, was with the two marked men, and all three were killed. Fed up with Chicago's gang-dominated lawlessness, the public clamored for justice. The police had no evidence for the murders, so instead they raided Capone's businesses, where they gathered documentation that would later be used to bolster charges against him of income tax evasion. In 1929, Capone's reign of terror reached its peak with the infamous St. Valentine's Day massacre. 7 rival gangsters were brutally gunned down in a garage, a shocking act of violence that sent shockwaves throughout the nation. Although Capone was in Miami at the time, he was widely believed to be behind the massacre, solidifying his status as public enemy number 1. The tide began to turn against Capone when President Herbert Hoover ordered the government to prosecute him for income tax evasion. In 1931, Capone was indicted on 22 counts. Initially, he struck a plea bargain, but when the judge refused to honor the agreement, Capone withdrew his guilty plea and the case went to trial. The trial was a media spectacle, with reporters flocking to the courtroom to witness the downfall of the notorious gangster. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence, including financial records and witness testimonies, painting a damning picture of Capone's tax evasion scheme. The defense, on the other hand, argued that Capone was merely a victim of circumstance, a scapegoat for a corrupt system. Despite the efforts of his defense team, Capone was found guilty on 5 counts of tax evasion. In October 1931, he was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison and ordered to pay hefty fines. Capone's empire had crumbled, and he was stripped of his wealth and power. Capone's time behind bars took a toll on his health, and he was eventually released to a mental hospital in Baltimore in 1939. His once mighty empire had crumbled, and he lived out the remainder of his life in relative obscurity. Al Capone, the man who had once ruled the organized crime scene, died in 1947 in Miami, leaving behind a legacy that continues to fascinate and shock the world. Frank Costello. In the bustling streets of New York City's East Harlem, a young boy named Francesco Castiglia was about to embark on a journey that would shape his destiny. Born on January 26, 1891, in Loropoli, Italy, Francesco, or Frank as he would later be known, was the son of hardworking Italian immigrants. At the tender age of 4, Frank, along with his mother and brother Edward, boarded a ship bound for America to join their father, who had already established a small Italian grocery store in East Harlem. It was in this vibrant neighborhood that Frank's life took an unexpected turn. Influenced by his older brother, Frank was introduced to the world of gang activities at a young age. By the time he reached 13, he had become a member of a local gang and had adopted the name Frankie. Petty crimes became a part of his daily routine, and it wasn't long before he found himself in and out of jail for assault and robbery. Frank's criminal activities landed him behind bars multiple times, serving sentences for his violent actions. But even in the confines of a jail cell, Frank's ambitions and thirst for power continued to grow. It was during one of his stints in jail that he met individuals who would shape his future and propel him into the criminal underworld. In 1918, Frank found himself serving 10 months in jail for carrying a concealed weapon. However, it was during this time that Frank's path intersected with that of a man who would become his closest ally and confidant. Charlie Lucky Luciano, the Sicilian leader of Manhattan's Lower East Side gang, entered Frank's life like a whirlwind. The two Italians immediately formed a bond, becoming fast friends and partners in crime. However, their partnership was met with disapproval from older members of Luciano's mob family. These old-school mafiosi were skeptical of working with non-Sicilians and warned Luciano against associating with Frank, whom they derogatorily referred to as the Dirty Calabrian. But Luciano, driven by his vision and trust in Frank's abilities, defied their warnings and forged ahead with their partnership. Alongside Italian-American associates Vito Genovese and Tommy Three-Finger Brown Lucchese, as well as Jewish associates Meyer Lansky and Benjamin Bugsy Siegel, the gang delved into a wide range of criminal activities. Robbery, theft, extortion, gambling, and narcotics became their bread and butter. They were a force to be reckoned with, and their influence only grew stronger with the passage of Prohibition in 1920. The era of Prohibition presented a golden opportunity for Frank and his associates. Backed by the criminal financier Arnold the Brain Rothstein, they ventured into the lucrative world of bootlegging. Their success knew no bounds as they struck business deals with leading Jewish and Irish criminals of the time. Rothstein became a mentor to Frank, Luciano, Lansky, and Siegel, guiding them through the intricacies of the bootlegging business. The young Italians' alliance with the Bronx beer baron Schultz further solidified their position in the criminal underworld, but their rise to power did not come without its fair share of challenges. The streets of New York City became a battleground, with the Costello-Madden-Schultz alliance pitted against their rivals. The Manhattan beer wars had begun, and the city was gripped by fear and chaos. But as the saying goes, every empire has its downfall, and the alliance would soon face its own reckoning. The once once mighty alliance between Costello, Madden, and Schultz crumbled under the weight of internal conflicts and external pressures. New York's underworld was changing, and a new era was about to dawn. But Frank Costello's story was far from over. His journey would take him to new heights and unimaginable challenges, solidifying his place in history as one of the most notorious crime bosses of his time. As the 1920s gave way to the 1930s, Frank Costello's influence within the criminal underworld continued to grow. His partnership with Charlie Lucky Luciano and their associates had solidified the foundation of what would become the infamous Luciano crime family. Together, they would navigate treacherous waters and orchestrate events that would shape the course of organized crime in America. In 1922, Costello and Luciano, along with their closest Italian associates, joined forces with the Sicilian crime family led by Joe the Boss Masseria. This alliance allowed Costello to expand his reach and influence, particularly in Hell's Kitchen, where he became a close associate of Irish crime bosses William Big Bill Dwyer and Oni the Killer Madden. Costello's involvement in the rum-running operations known as the Combine further solidified his position in the criminal underworld. It was during this time that he made a significant decision that would have lasting implications. He changed his last name to Costello, adopting an Irish surname, perhaps as a strategic move to align himself more closely with his Irish associates. In 1925, Costello became a U.S. citizen, fully embracing his new identity as an American. This newfound status allowed him to operate more freely within the criminal underworld, expanding his criminal enterprises and forming alliances with influential figures. In the late 1920s, a loose cartel of East Coast bootleggers known as the Big Seven was formed. Costello, alongside prominent gangsters such as Luciano, Longy Zwillman, Joe Adonis, and Meyer Lansky, played a crucial role in organizing this powerful alliance. Their goal was to prevent all-out turf wars between gangs. The Big Seven's influence extended far beyond bootlegging. They were involved in various criminal enterprises, including gambling, extortion, and narcotics. Their power and reach were unmatched, and they were determined to establish a national body that would regulate criminal activities and maintain peace among the different factions. In May 1929, a historic conference was held in Atlantic City, hosted by Johnny Torrio, Meyer Lansky, Charlie Luciano, and Frank Costello. This gathering marked the birth of the National Crime Syndicate, a powerful organization that aimed to bring order to the chaotic world of organized crime. The National Crime Syndicate became a force to be reckoned with, uniting various criminal organizations under a common goal. Costello's involvement in this syndicate further solidified his position as one of the most influential crime bosses of his time. But as the saying goes, power comes with a price. In early 1931, the Castellamarese War erupted between Joe Masseria and Salvatore Maranzano, two powerful Italian underworld bosses. Luciano, seeking to secure his own power, struck a secret deal with Maranzano. In return for engineering Masseria's death, Luciano would receive Masseria's rackets and become Maranzano's second-in-command. On April 15, 1931, Luciano lured Masseria to a meeting at Nuova Villa Tamaro on Coney Island. As they played cards, Luciano excused himself to the bathroom, leaving Masseria vulnerable. It is said that Vito Genovese, Albert Anastasia, Joe Adonis, and Benjamin Bugsy Siegel were the gunmen who carried out the hit. With Masseria out of the picture, Luciano took over his family, appointing Vito Genovese as his underboss. The power dynamics within the Luciano crime family shifted, and Costello found himself playing a pivotal role in the new order. However, tensions soon arose between Luciano and Maranzano. Luciano received word that Maranzano was planning to kill him and Genovese, prompting him to take preemptive action. On September 10, 1931, Luciano, Genovese, and Costello were summoned to a meeting at Maranzano's office. They knew that danger awaited them there. Instead of walking into their own demise, Luciano sent 4 Jewish gangsters, whose identities were unknown to Maranzano's people, to carry out the hit. This audacious move allowed Luciano, Genovese, and Costello to eliminate their biggest threat and solidify their control over the Luciano crime family. With Maranzano's demise, Luciano became the undisputed leader of the Luciano crime family, with Genovese as his trusted underboss. Costello's influence within the family continued to grow, and he played a crucial role in maintaining the family's operations. However, as the years went by, Costello began to face challenges from within and outside the criminal underworld. In 1957, he survived an assassination attempt ordered by Vito Genovese. Although he survived the attack, the incident convinced Costello that it was time to retire and relinquish power to Genovese. Costello lived out the rest of his days in retirement, far removed from the violent world he once ruled. On February 18, 1973, he passed away, leaving behind a legacy that would forever be etched in the annals of organized crime. John Gotti. In the gritty streets of New York City, a young boy named John Gotti was born into a world of poverty and struggle. Growing up in the tough neighborhoods of the Bronx, he witnessed the harsh realities of life at an early age. But little did anyone know, this young boy would go on to become one of the most feared and powerful figures in the history of organized crime. John Gotti was born in 1940, the second of 13 children in the impoverished neighborhood of the Bronx. Growing up in a world of poverty and crime, Gotti and his brothers quickly learned the harsh realities of life on the streets. By the age of 12, Gotti was working as an errand boy for an underground club in the neighborhood run by Carmine Fatico. Fatico was a captain in the local Gambino family, the largest of the 5 organized crime families in New York City. Through his activities with the club, Gotti met Agnello Della Croce, who became his lifelong mentor. At a young age, Gotti turned to a life of crime, engaging in petty thefts and hustles to survive. He became the leader of a tight-knit gang known as the Fulton Rockaway Boys, notorious for their robberies and carjackings. Gotti's reputation as a bully and troublemaker grew during his time at Franklin K. Lane High School, but it was his criminal activities that would ultimately shape his destiny. Surrounded by the allure of fast money and power, he quickly found himself drawn into a life of crime. Although Gotti started small, engaging in petty theft and hustling on the streets, it wasn't long before he caught the attention of the Gambino crime family, one of the most notorious mafia organizations in New York City. Gotti's charisma and street smarts made him a valuable asset to the Gambino family. He quickly rose through the ranks, earning the trust and respect of his superiors. With his sharp wit and natural leadership abilities, it became clear that Gotti was destined for something greater. As the years went by, Gotti's reputation grew. He became known for his extravagant lifestyle, sporting expensive clothes, flashy jewelry, and driving luxury cars. But it wasn't just his flamboyant style that set him apart. Gotti possessed a cunning and ruthless nature that made him a force to be reckoned with. In the 1980s, an opportunity presented itself for Gotti to make his mark on the criminal underworld. He saw a chance to seize power within the Gambino family, and he wasn't about to let it slip away. In a move that would send shockwaves through the Mafia, Gotti orchestrated the murder of his predecessor, Paul Castellano, on December 16, 1985. With Castellano out of the way, Gotti assumed control of the Gambino family, becoming its new boss. His rise to power was swift and brutal, as he solidified his position through violence and intimidation. Gotti's reign marked a turning point for the Cosa Nostra, as his flamboyant and audacious style captivated the public's imagination. But as Gotti's power grew, so did the attention of law enforcement. Despite facing multiple indictments, he managed to evade conviction in several high-profile trials, earning him the nickname the Teflon Don. It seemed as though nothing could touch him. Gotti's reign as boss of the Gambino family was marked by violence and intimidation. He was implicated in numerous criminal activities, including murder, racketeering, and extortion. But despite the mounting evidence against him, Gotti seemed untouchable. However, the law was determined to bring Gotti to justice. In 1992, after years of investigations and legal battles, he finally faced trial on charges of murder, racketeering, and other crimes. The trial that followed would be one of the most sensational in American history. The courtroom became a battleground as the prosecution presented a mountain of evidence against him. The trial captivated the nation, with the media closely following every twist and turn. Gotti, known for his confident demeanor, faced the full force of the justice system. But even in the face of overwhelming evidence, he maintained his innocence, refusing to back down. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence against Gotti, including wiretapped conversations and testimony from former associates turned government witnesses. But Gotti's charisma and the loyalty of his men made it difficult for the prosecution to secure a conviction. Gotti's defense team argued that he was merely a legitimate businessman and not the ruthless mob boss portrayed by the government. They painted a picture of a man who cared deeply for his family and community. One of the most pivotal moments in the case was when one of his closest friends turned on him. Gotti's underboss, Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano, aided the FBI in convicting Gotti. In 1991, Gravano agreed to turn state's evidence and testify against Gotti after hearing the boss make disparaging remarks about him on a wiretap that implicated them both in several murders. In 1992, Gotti was convicted of 5 murders: conspiracy to commit murder, racketeering, obstruction of justice, tax evasion, illegal gambling, extortion, and loan sharking. The Teflon Don's luck had finally run out, and he received life in prison without parole and was transferred to the United States Penitentiary, Marion. Gotti's conviction sent shockwaves through the criminal underworld. It was a significant blow to the Gambino family and marked the beginning of the end for the Cosa Nostra. Once untouchable crime boss had been brought down by the relentless pursuit of justice. While in prison, Gotti's influence over the Gambino family waned. His brother Peter and his son John Jr. tried to maintain control, but the family faced internal power struggles and external pressure from law enforcement. Gotti's imprisonment also strained his marriage, with his wife Victoria blaming him him for their son's involvement in the Mafia. In 1998, Gotti's health took a turn for the worse. He was diagnosed with throat cancer and underwent surgery to remove the tumor. Initially, it seemed like he might beat the odds once again, but sadly, the cancer returned, and Gotti's health rapidly declined. On June 10, 2002, John Gotti, the once untouchable crime boss, passed away at the age of 61. His death marked the end of an era for the Gambino family, which was left in disarray by numerous prosecutions and internal power struggles. In popular culture, Gotti's life and crimes continue to fascinate and captivate audiences. He has been the subject of numerous films, TV shows, and songs, with actors such as Armand Assante, John Travolta, and Maurice Benard portraying him on screen. The enduring fascination with Gotti speaks to the allure of the criminal underworld and the complex nature of his character, Carlo Gambino. In the dark underbelly of New York City, one name struck fear into the hearts of both criminals and law enforcement alike: Carlo Gambino. Born in Palermo, Sicily in 1902, Gambino's journey from poverty to becoming the most powerful mob boss in American history is a tale of ambition, ruthlessness, and unwavering control. In 1921, he made the fateful decision to immigrate to the United States, seeking a better life. Little did he know that he would soon find himself entangled in the criminal underworld. Joining a criminal organization headed by Joe Massera, Gambino quickly rose through the ranks, showcasing his cunning and loyalty. However, his reign came to an end in 1976 when he died of natural causes. His funeral was a spectacle, attended by hundreds of people, including law enforcement agents who had spent years trying to bring him down. Inspired by real-life figures and the allure of The Godfather, Gambino transformed the Gambino crime family into an empire of fear and violence. Carlo Gambino, a name that would become synonymous with power and fear, began his journey from humble beginnings in Palermo, Sicily. Born in 1902, he grew up in a world of poverty and violence, surrounded by the influence of the Mafia. No one would have known that this young boy would one day become the most powerful mob boss in American history. In 1921, at the age of 19, Gambino made the life-altering decision to immigrate to the United States. Seeking a better life and driven by ambition, he set foot in the land of opportunity. It was here that he would find his true calling, as he became entangled in the criminal underworld of New York City. Gambino wasted no time in making connections and aligning himself with the right people. He joined a criminal organization headed by Joe Massera, a powerful figure in the Mafia at the time. Under Masseria's guidance, Gambino quickly rose through the ranks, showcasing his cunning and loyalty. It was during this time that he caught the attention of his peers, who recognized his potential for greatness. But it was the Castellamarese War that truly propelled Gambino into the spotlight. This violent conflict between rival Mafia factions ravaged the American Mafia, leaving a trail of bloodshed and chaos in its wake. Gambino, ever the opportunist, saw this as his chance to make a name for himself. The war pitted the older, Sicilian-born members of the Mafia against a group of young mafiosos known as the Young Turks, led by Lucky Luciano. The Young Turks believed in diversifying the Mafia and forging ties with non-Italian organized crime groups. This clash of ideologies led to constant violence and assassinations, as each faction fought for control. Realizing that the war was destroying their organization and profits, Luciano and the Young Turks made a bold move. They struck a deal with the Sicilians to end the war, and then Luciano orchestrated the assassination of their leader. With the Sicilians out of the way, the Young Turks took charge and established a council to rule the Mafia and resolve disputes diplomatically. Gambino thrived in this new Mafia climate. His skills as a strategist and enforcer became legendary as he navigated the treacherous waters of organized crime. He quickly became a top earner for his family, accumulating wealth and power along the way. Gambino's rise to power was swift and calculated as he solidified his position within the criminal underworld. By 1957, Gambino's family leader, Albert Anastasia, had become increasingly violent and unpredictable. Anastasia's decision to order a hit on a civilian broke an unspoken taboo in the Mafia, and the heads of the other families agreed that he needed to be eliminated. They approached Gambino, recognizing his leadership potential, and asked him to organize the hit. Gambino agreed, and in a daring move, Anastasia was gunned down in his own barbershop. With the elimination of Anastasia, Gambino became the godfather of his own family. This marked a turning point in his rise to power, as he now had complete control over the Mangano crime family. Under Gambino's leadership, the Gambino crime family expanded its criminal activities across the country. They engaged in extortion, robbery, and loan sharking, amassing immense wealth and power. Gambino's ability to maintain control over his family, which boasted over 500 soldiers and 1,000 associates, was a testament to his leadership and ruthlessness. But Gambino's power extended beyond his own family. He played a significant role in the creation creation of the Commission, a governing body that brought together the heads of the major crime families. This influential position solidified his power and influence within organized crime, as he had a say in the affairs of the entire American Mafia. However, Gambino's rise to power was not without its challenges. He faced deportation proceedings and was indicted on charges of conspiring to hijack an armored car. Yet his health issues prevented him from standing trial, allowing him to continue his criminal activities with impunity. Carlo Gambino's reign as the most powerful mob boss in American history was marked by his ability to outsmart his rivals and evade the law. He maintained a low profile, making it difficult for law enforcement to gather evidence against him. His self-control and reputation for ruthlessness made him feared and respected among his peers. In 1976, at the age of 74, Carlo Gambino died of natural causes, leaving behind a legacy that still echoes through the criminal underworld. His funeral was attended by hundreds of people, including law enforcement agents who had spent years trying to bring him down. Gambino's leadership style was characterized by a combination of calculated strategy and unwavering control. He understood the importance of maintaining a low profile, allowing him to outlast many of his rivals. While other mob bosses succumbed to violence and infighting, Gambino remained focused on expanding his criminal empire. One of Gambino's greatest strengths was his ability to adapt to changing times. As the Prohibition era came to an end, he shifted the family's focus from bootlegging to other lucrative ventures. The Gambino crime family became involved in drug trafficking, loan sharking, and gambling, among other criminal activities. Their operations spanned across the country, earning them hundreds of millions of dollars annually. Gambino's control over the family was unparalleled. He commanded the loyalty and respect of his soldiers and associates, ensuring their unwavering dedication to the family's cause. His leadership extended beyond mere control. He was known for his strategic thinking and ability to make calculated decisions that furthered the family's interests. The Gambino crime family operated like a well-oiled machine under Gambino's guidance. He established a hierarchical structure that allowed for efficient operations and minimized the risk of internal conflicts. Gambino's attention to detail and meticulous planning ensured that the family's criminal activities ran smoothly and profitably. But Gambino's control over the family extended beyond the realm of criminal activities. He played a crucial role in the creation of the Commission, a governing body that brought together the heads of the major crime families. This body served as a means of resolving disputes and maintaining order within the American Mafia. Gambino's influence within the Commission solidified his position as one of the most powerful mob bosses in the country. Despite his immense power, Gambino maintained a low profile in the public eye. He rarely attracted attention from law enforcement, making it difficult for them to gather evidence against him. Gambino's ability to evade the law was a testament to his cunning and strategic thinking. Carlo Gambino's reign as boss was marked by his unwavering control, calculated decision-making, and ability to adapt to changing times. Under his leadership, the Gambino crime family became a force to be reckoned with, engaging in a wide range of criminal activities and solidifying its status as one of the most powerful and influential mafia organizations in the United States. If you enjoyed this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen for more content.